Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we're live, being filmed with a potato. Let's get some conditioned air going here. This is Southeast Texas after all, and it is baking in here, making soup. What's happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. So, catching up with you guys basically on an open chat. Wanted to see at this stage of the game, has the demon hangover worn off yet? And I wanted to ask you guys, get y'all's feedback on some of the, I'm not really going to call it negative press that could be coming along with this latest demon release, but it's actually kind of maybe an irony that's kicking in. And some folks have picked up on this, and others are just now kind of coming around to it. So the Demon 170 was released, right? And so it's out in the world, and we've all seen the videos, and it gets down the track, and everybody's trying to figure out, is it really making 1,000 horsepower? Is it more? Is it really going to run an 890 and all this other stuff, right? I mean, I can do the math. I know about where it is in real numbers, but there's also some, Kentucky windage that you can use to try to come up with a number. And I get all of that. But I guess my question is, does any of this matter with all of the tracks that are shutting down in the United States, especially the ones that are touting the NHRA label? Does it matter that the NHRA, whatever even that means to anybody, certifies this car as running an 890 and you must have a this and you have to have a that to run this car at our track? Listen, that governing body isn't really doing a whole lot in terms of keeping its, I don't know, what do you call them? Supporting, participating members in business. We're looking at a host of tracks that are shutting down for reasons, okay? It doesn't matter. You can talk about the reason being urban sprawl and communities that are growing up now around these drag strips that simply cannot tolerate, the Brazilian decibels that come when a Top Fuel dragster is going down the track. Give you an idea, I live roughly 10 full ass driving minutes from what was a premier drag strip, and I could hear the Top Fuel dragsters when they made hits. Okay, it ain't exactly not quiet, but have you noticed something a little bit, suspect? Well, the suspect thing is that NHRA isn't like they're going out and building tracks. They're not going to bat for any of these track owners that are trying to stay in business. It's just the traveling circus comes to town, consumes the resources, and then dips out just in time for these tracks to start really suffering and going out of business. I find it hysterical that tracks that are conforming to and basically practically going out of business to, in some cases, adhere to the governance of the NHRA, only to have the NHRA be nowhere to be found when litigation comes up in terms of being able to keep their business alive. And second to that, does NHRA own any tracks? I don't know that they do or don't, but I find it odd that I am now basically, I'll put it to you like this. The body is still warm, literally. The track is still warm from the demise of Houston Raceway Park. Today, April 1st, is actually the last official day, really of any kind, for there to be any racing at that drag strip. And so when you're talking about the sheer number of high class tracks that are going out of business, where are you going to take your circus in NHRA? That's kind of a question that I've had on my mind a little bit. And as somebody that has very, 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 like not even a cup of coffee in that world, when last year I was able to run at the Spring Nationals and get a lot of behind the scenes info and interaction with folks. It's It's nauseating, really, if you're into this kind of thing. But for how long are you nauseated by it? For how long does the grief last? I can tell you this, I'll never go to another NHRA event. I won't have a reason to. What am I going to do? Go watch Top Fuel dragsters go down the track? Where? Where would I go to see such a thing? 4 or 5 hours away? It makes no sense. And to make matters worse, we're talking about something that, well, as a sport in general, seems to be on the decline. So I find it curious that Dodge would be touting, well, it ran an 890 NHRA certified. Doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, it can be, Bob's Bait Shop and Tire Emporium certified it at an 890. It doesn't not matter what governing body sanctioned that, especially when you consider the fact that half these cars that are being made, talking about the Demon 170, are going to be sitting in somebody's bubble wrapped basement, and the other half are going to be very tentatively driven, if ever. If you see any of these at a drag strip, fantastic, but they're not going to be out there crushing 8-second quarter mile passes. Not the way that you would think anyway. And I hate to tell you all this, but if they're running the stock camshaft, I can tell you exactly what kind of numbers they can hope to run. Just look at Demonology's passes before he put the new camshaft in the car. So, I mean, to be excited or to be interested in a car that's certified to run a number, and you can't run your car at our tracks, motherfucker. If it's our tracks, how aren't you stepping up with that paper, son, to keep these places around? Or better still, secure the land. Go out there and basically franchise your tracks out there. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to tout yourself as this premier organization, you're doing it off of the backs of small business owners. And the fact that you won't step up and do anything, NHRA, to me, tells you about really where you're at. You're about the dollar because you're a business. I respect that. However, what I do have to say is that I'm a little bit concerned about where the sport is going just in general. So anyway, let me get to you guys real quick while I'm over here ranting away. Nitro Crew is in. Jason's in. What up, Jason? Zephyr R&D, my man. How are you doing? Eric Taylor is in. Got the flex. I like it. Chuck Rice, what up, brother? Itch is in. Saying, good day, Mr. B. Good day, Mr. Itch. Roy Morgan, what's up, my man? Sovereign is in. Nitro Crew saying the cost of that car seems so far out of reach of the consumer. I think prices will go down a little, especially in this economy. After a little time lapse, a reality check. Well, I don't know, man. That's a possibility, but you got to remember, I was just watching Meekum. Y'all are going to love this. All right. So I'm watching Meekum today, and I've got it on in the background. I've got other stuff that I'm working on. And actually, I was working on my wife's Jeep. And I'll tell you about that here in just a minute. I got to tell y'all about this working on my wife's Jeep thing. It's a Jeep thing. So so I've got it on. Anyway, it was on in my office. And so I walk into my office, and there it is, yellow with black roof and hood Demon, right? And the gavel dropped at 122,000. Y'all may have seen it. As a matter of fact, I may not be exact on the number. What I want to say it was 122 is what it dropped at. So it's 122 plus the bump. So that's whatever Meekum puts on top of that as a seller's fee and as the buyer's fee as well. So let me put it to you another way. That car, that fella probably bought that car for $130,000 to $150,000, and now he's doing good at Meekum to cover $122. I'll put it to you like this: the value of Demons is basically just gone belly up and stick back, dude. I'm telling you. Road Test TV is saying, "What's up, man?" Saying, "Agree. We lost PBIR recently in Palm Beach. Palm Beach shutting down." Look, I am hurt by Houston Raceway Park closing down, but Palm Beach shutting down is kind of a piss me off. Really cool property, man. I hate that one's shut down. Chuck Rice saying peace. Road Test TV. Walmart Distribution Center. That just makes me ill. Summer saying this year, this April Fool sucks. Driver's side mirror assembly got clipped and it's busted. Ooh, now I have to order a generic one and it's black. Oh, that sucks. Super stocks in. He's got the cadence, and I don't have my. Oh wait, he doesn't have the cadence. Well, anyway, I got the flex. The one local dealership told me $200K over window for the $170. Guess I'll enjoy the super stock. Got a 0% and well under sticker back in 21. Dude, keep it. I'm telling you. And I'm telling you, here's something else to consider. And Road Test is nailing it. 891 is just a marketing stunt. It's ultra mine shaft, by the way, to get attention and sell cars. Here's the thing. So when I've done the math on this car, depending on how you work it, the car really is 1,050 horsepower. It's net horsepower, SAEJ 1372. It's going to show a higher number on the dyno because the dyno is not SAEJ 1372. It corrects to 70 degrees, not 60 degrees. And so it's kind of it corrects to 60 degrees, not 70 degrees. And so you're going to see a 4% higher number just in general, and then you can kick 8% on top of that for a dyno jet number. So it's going to show about 14% higher than what it really is on a dyno jet. To be able to cover an 890, the car is going to be light. I get all of that, but again, ultra mine shaft air and lighter weight car, and an 8-speed automatic, which makes a huge difference. That can screw up some calculations if you forget that you're working with an 8-speed calculator, as an 8-speed automatic as opposed to a 3-speed or a 2-speed. Gary Fuller's in, Colby is in, saying we need them 170 parts to waterfall. We do. What I'm hoping is that we'll have an ability to have a standalone ECU through direct connection that has a provision for the sensed, the E85 sensor for a true flex fuel option for these cars. Chuck saying, is there a falling off interest in NHRA? It seems like there's always a crowd at the events. You know, I'll tell you something. I will say this. There are more and more people that aren't going back to NHRA events. There's a lot of premier NHRA tracks that are shutting down. And in Houston last year, when I ran, I was running in front of a packed house. When Chris and I made those exhibition hits, which by the way was, objectively speaking, some of the best racing of the day, there was a completely packed house, but it was a completely packed house with the understanding that it was going to be the last spring nationals at that track. And so in saying that, I can tell you that the attendance would have been maybe 70%, still enough, still a big turnout, but I don't know. I haven't heard of anybody that's excited about NHRA events. I'll leave it there. Oh, Sovereign saying that Nick's garage wanted a 170. He says you can't get one. Nick would be a good one to have one. Road Test, best thing about the Demon 170 is the new rear diff. No doubt. The new rear diff is beefy in that thing. DM saying, after all this Demon stuff, I think the smart move was optimizing Revlon and making her Demon fast. Great execution plan. Thank you, sir. Red Dog's in. What's up, man? So DM, yeah. So let me address that. I know that has sometimes been a bit of an elephant in the room with Revlon. Why did I not take it any further? Why didn't I take it a step farther? Well, the reason why I didn't take it a step farther is because number one, how do I put this? I don't want to put this in a weird light. I'm just going to go ahead and say, y'all know the spirit that I'm coming from with this and the energy behind it. Okay, so y'all know I used to work for Pikes Performance, and I am still, friends with Alex. Everything is still super cool. I always still tell you guys to send your business his way. He still teaches, still does all of that. If he needs a camshaft, a new profile put together, I still do that. It's not like we don't communicate or anything, but it was my experience working with these cars that led me to believe that I did not want to pulley my car. I just wanted it to be what it was initially, which was a solid 10-second car that I could take on road trips. And what I ended up with was a car that I practically fell in love with. And, you see it back here doing fun drag strip things, but the reality is that car is just a neat, cool car to drive that encompasses all of my favorite cars that I've ever driven in one car. So I never went the pulley route, and I never went fuel, and I never went really anything with my car because of that. I had a goal that I had in mind, and then it kind of turned into, well, can I tune this thing on 93 octane? What's the fastest anybody's gone on 93 octane and still had a car to talk about? And that's when it was like that back and forth there was only one guy that was still championing that 93 octane stock boost thing. And that was Mopar Jim up in Canada. And I thought, well, he's got the Mother Nature advantage. Let me see what I can do. And so after a lot of, in track testing and everything else, we're able to have cars that are basically running the same number. So at any given day, either one of us could have the fastest 93 octane cars. They're both going to run the same. But that's why I just didn't want to take it to a place where I knew that people were taking their cars to and then running away from them. That's why at one point, oh man, this goes back about 4 years ago. At about 4 years ago, there were a boatload, maybe three to 4 years ago, just before the whole, thing hit, the super sniffles. Right before that hit, there was it was like a mass exodus from Mopar Hellcats, and there were a ton of pulleyed Hellcats that were up for grabs at that point. And I knew personally, 1, 2, 3, let's say, I'm not going to say half a dozen, but say 4 or 5 guys that flipped their cars quick because they had put pulleys on them and decided pretty quickly that it wasn't for them. And when you start throwing a ton of boost at Hellcats, they just get faster and faster and faster. You start throwing boost E85, and next thing you know, you've got a significantly quick car. It might not be the fastest out of the group from a roll, but it'll definitely be. You're going to have to work to get that win, right? Well, a lot of these guys were figuring out pretty quickly that it's not all that fun to have a car that will start to haze the tires and start wall hunting at 130 miles an hour. And people say, you're joking. Well, y'all know Racer X, y'all know Excessive, his old Charger. I was a driving force behind the build of that car. In fact, I'm the guy that delivered it to him. And this is going back a lot of years. He goes, how's the stability from a roll? And I said, I don't know. I was trying to get the best fuel economy I could out of the car. He goes, well, hit it. So anyway, all right. So rolled into the throttle, basically load tested the car. And I mean, it would absolutely haze the tires at well over 100 miles an hour. So, it's just a reality of these cars. A lot of guys get them and they don't realize the monster that they have caged up in their garage. There's a certain romance too that a lot of guys get into with these cars. So, and I don't mind talking about it. So when you're talking about modifying a car past a certain point, you don't realize what kind of animal you're dealing with. And I am never going to be the guy saying, I'm telling you, young snapper nippers, or whippersnappers or whatever it is. I'm never going to be that dude. But I'm going to tell you that a I'll put it to you like this. You guys always, all my cars, the whole fleet it has got a stripper name, right? So you got Sierra, Foxy, Revlon, aka Chandelier. You had Shalandra, and Stormy, all of that. Okay, so this should come as no surprise where I'm going with this analogy. So stock Hellcat is a really chill, like thick chick. Like, this girl pretty much down to chill, do whatever. But the girl can absolutely, she's got a pretty decent right hook, right? Like she's kind of the standard. But the more work you put into that girl, the more of a monster she becomes, right? She starts getting hotter. Next thing you know, you're really working with this hottie. You got a pulley, little bit of injectors going on. Yeah, this girl now, she's put in work. Now she's hella thick. Man, when she walks into a room, you got neck snapping, but you got to work that girl, right? Like, she's going to put a hurting on you, and she's going to put a hurting on you in a way where you're like, damn, man, I kind of uncaged a tiger. This is the kind of girl that'll give you that forearm when you're getting it on. Like, if you ain't doing it right, she's going to start dropping bombs on you type of thing. Like, you don't come out of this thing without bloodshed and black eyes. It sounds romantic as hell. I get it. Okay. I understand. But it's not for everybody. And if you can't handle ball gags and leather belts, you ain't going to come out of that relationship in a good way. And then guys take it a step even further. And so the more you take steps with Hellcats, little bitty steps with Hellcats, you take this thing from a fun little, just a great girlfriend to you may not survive the next time y'all get after it. So that's the issue that I see. You don't live with these cars for very long once you start modifying. Not in the way that you can get away with like a Mustang. Like a Mustang starts off so much lower down the trough. And if you do a little supercharger upgrade and things like that, next thing you know, you bring it up to or maybe a little bit more than a modified Hellcat. It's still a very fun car and you can enjoy it. It's not going to try to kill you in the process of having fun. And what ends up happening again with a lot of guys when they start getting into boosting the hell out of a positive displacement supercharged car is that is exactly what you're doing. You've now got a car that is no fun anywhere. You can't play with it from a dig, and still has too much power from a roll to do anything safely just playing around on the highway like a normal automobile, like you want to shower down on it to try to get around somebody. This is a new skill set that you'll have to learn, which is throttle control. But it's got the aerodynamics of a barn. And so, you lose the roll race capability. So there's a lot and it's heavy. So there's a lot of weird things that come with Hellcats, and guys get them and they find out pretty quickly that they don't want all of what having a Hellcat has to offer. When you start to modify them, they wish they could put them back to stock, and to save face, they end up getting away from them, usually a bit more battered and bruised for the process. So, but let me get back over here with you guys. Oh, super stock. I have no idea what's up with the top speed on that car. I can tell you that all you got to do is look up the speed ratings for the ET Street R. I think it is 168. I'd have to look at that. So yeah, it's not going to be like super, super high up there unless you put a different wheel and tire setup on it. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, Chuck said, I know I mentioned this before, but if you can afford 150 to 200 grand, you are way better off than my poor hillbilly ass. I dropped 56 large on my Scat last year and I'm having a blast in it. That's the thing. You don't have nobody. The problem is that nobody's buying that car to have fun with it. They're just not. It's a cool exercise. Like, it's a really cool engineering exercise, but I don't know. You can have a whole lot more fun spending a whole lot less. Jazz is asking, I wonder if the demon owners are going to sue over the right of refusal fiasco. What he's talking about is the build number. That's one thing. I mean, that's a promise. I don't know if anybody's getting that in writing. However, I will say this. At one point, there was a class action thing that was put together for the demon owners that was loosely, I guess, revolving around that 965 promise, that it runs a 965 in the quarter. Well, the problem is that nobody did it. And so anyway, I have no idea what ended up happening with that, but it looks like Dodge may have gone up and done the same thing with this car, which is something I was so hoping they wouldn't do. Only because an 8-something pass, people don't understand the difference between, like, what the difference is at those speeds between an 899 and a 965. To put it in perspective, at those speeds, that would be roughly, okay, at 130 miles an hour, it's 19 feet per tenth of a second. And so, I'm sorry, 1.9 feet per tenth of a second. And so when you start to really pull, no, damn, I'm getting my math all screwed up. It's 1.9 feet per hundredth of a second. And it's 19 feet per tenth of a second. So a tenth is just over a car length, basically, is what I was trying to, my math kind of got screwed up there. So at 150 miles an hour, that 19 feet is probably more like 23 feet per tenth. And so it's literally like truck links that you're pulling on people with that so bus links, really, that you're pulling ahead. And so you're talking about 120 feet. Basically, I'll put it to you like this. You were covering the quarter mile in terms of total feet. You will reach 1320 when a demon hits, say, 1,200 feet, right? I mean, you're so far out ahead of it. And it's hard to comprehend what that looks like on a drag strip. Like, I can walk you through what it sounds like or what it looks like just in my head. Like, I can see it in my head, but it's hard to explain it. And there's such a vast difference between an 890 and a 960. I'll put it to you like this. Let me tell you how hard it is to pick up. How practically impossible it is to pick up 0.06 of a second in the quarter mile. 0.06 of a second is a lot of room. That's about 8 feet, 9 feet, which is a lot. Like, that's how far back my car would be from this ghost car that would be covering a 999. Now turn that, it would be like this. It would be this humongous difference. Anyway, get back. Zephyr is saying, just got back from Austin for dispenser manufacturer certification. Very cool. Soon, a site could offer a blending pump that offers a normal high, low octane plus any octane in between. Thoughts? Well, that's what the GM sensor does. It literally will sense the amount of ethanol content in the fuel, and then and it can do this as a 5-volt system. It can do it as really any system that you need it to function as. I think GM's is a 5-volt, and given a certain amount of ethanol, you would receive a voltage output. And so that voltage output, and for the new Demon, it's the MEA spec for E85 is 70% alcohol. So for anything that is basically in the range of E70 and up, then you're going to have, that's when it would start to trigger that timing table. And that's a sliding timing table that will be adding timing as it is able to add timing based on the ethanol content of the fuel. And then you get into, okay, how many timing tables do you have to play with? Is it 2? Is it, 10? Is it 100? I mean, it just depends on how sophisticated that system really is. Sovereign's hanging out with Chuck. Let's see. Catalyst. Straight fire. Sovereign's asking what I think about Racer X's Dark Horse order. I'm kind of a fan of that Dark Horse package. Actually, I'm a fan of the Mustang in general. You'll never hear me say anything really negative about the Mustang, mainly because, I mean, there's a lot that the Mustang represents. And for those that don't, that if you just can't see past the fact that it's a Mustang, let me kind of bring up speed. The Mustang has always been, okay? So whenever other manufacturers checked out, we had the Mustang. Whenever other manufacturers checked out, Ford was making the GT500. When there was no reason for them to make a GT500, they made a GT500. When Ford had really no reason to make a Gen 2 Lightning, supercharged, crazy, right? They were making hot rods when nobody else was making hot rods. And more to the point, they were making muscle hot rods. They were building cars that were making in trucks, primarily is what they started with the Lightning, that had that torque, that big block torque and horsepower number. The 4.25 horse, 450 pound-feet of torque. Nobody had seen numbers like that since the muscle car era, right? So that's why the Fords hold such a special place in the hearts of so many people, is because they've always been there for the enthusiast. And remember, guys, it was Ford back in the day with Ford Racing Performance Parts, FRPP. That was what taught a very young bald guy like that is me, how to properly assess a tune, how to figure out which injectors you need. All the original old school tuning tech came from their performance parts catalog. Again, something that nobody had really seen for a long time. This is after the dissolution of Direct Connection. You had Ford that was carrying the mantle of muscle car and pony car. And so when I see a Mustang, especially when I see Mustang being continually developed year after year after year, continually improved upon, this latest iteration, the S650, it's one hell of an automobile. So hats off to him. I may be a Mopar guy at heart, but I am, the DNA profile has a lot of Ford in it. So there is that to say. I mean, like I say, the new engine at 486 horsepower is a marvel. The Dark Horse is a 500 horse engine. Man, I'm telling you, like I say, it is going to be nasty, especially when guys start throwing boost at it. That car, yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. I'm really happy for him. Jazz Hellcat's asking, what's a Dark Horse? Dark Horse is the hot rod version, naturally aspirated, of the new Mustang GT, right at 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated 302. Chuck's saying, don't care, like my Challenger Scat better. And that's the beauty of it. You can have the Scat Packs and you can have the Mustangs. They offer completely different driving experiences. Listen, and here's the other thing, and this is the thing that is kind of funny, because guys have this funny habit of comparing Mustangs to Scat Packs, which, I mean, I get why you would, but you have to remember that this is a lot like comparing how do I put this? Like, you wouldn't compare let me flip the brands. You wouldn't compare a 1970 Cuda to a 1970 Mercury Cougar, right? They're kind of different cars. The Cougar's bigger, and even if it makes the same amount of power or more, it's going to be slower. It's more of a luxury, like a personal luxury hot rod, than it is a outright performance car, the way that the Cuda would be by comparison. So that's kind of how I see the comparison between the two. Is I don't really compare them. Again, for whatever reason, in my head, there's not a competition there, even though it's like a forced competition. The real competition was Camaro and Mustang, with Mopar doing what Mopar's always done best, which is kind of do their own thing. High performance, luxury, stable at high speeds, comfortable. It's based off of a freaking Mercedes-Benz E/S class sedan. So, I mean, the underpinnings of this thing are not anywhere near what you would consider to be a sports car. In fact, I owned an 09 E63 AMG, had the M156 505 horse. Actually, it was rated at 500 horse. Had a bunch of Euro parts on it. Car was fast. That is your Charger. If you were to strip the door panels off the thing, you would not know what you were looking at, one versus the other. And you got to remember, the Mopars were based around a car that was designed to run on the Autobahn at 150 miles an hour indefinitely. Like, oh, you need to go from, point A to point B, and you want to go 100 and however 5 miles an hour you want to go. That's the car that you would grab the keys for. Not something like the Mustang. So to me, just, I guess, knowing the background of the car and knowing where it's coming from and what the kind of the mission statement is, I never saw him as a direct line of sight competitor. I understand why you'd want to line him up and get after it. And listen, Mustang lovers out there, cover your ears, but mod for mod early on in the process, my SRT didn't lose but one race at a drag strip to a Mustang. So again, it did what it does best, does dodge things, and that's why you buy them, right? But yeah, anyway, I digress. Let me get back to you guys. Brian's in saying ditto, liking his scatty. Ascala saying, what's up, brother? Finally did the rear seat delete. Very nice. 2 bolts were hard, maybe Loctite. Any tricks for doing the Barton shifter? They want $300 for install. Thinking of doing it myself. Funny analogy. So here's the thing. That is kind of funny. So any tricks or tips? When I did mine in Shalandra, it's actually not that hard. The only thing is when you pull everything apart, there's videos online that'll show you how to do it. It's not very hard to do. But you still have to keep your stock shifter, and you end up tucking it kind of up underneath and into the console there. But there's not any tips or tricks to make it easier. It's just kind of a follow the directions thing. As far as your rear seat delete, yeah, the 2 T50 bolts. That's what I was saying before, man. When you are taking those 2 T50 bolts out, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When the first rear seat delete that I ever did, I stripped out one of those bolts. They're a softer metal, and kind of designed to not, I guess, break or shear. They're just kind of a softer metal that holds the seatbelt hardware in there. And if you're not, you got to have a sharp, very fresh T50. And if you can get away with it, no extension or a very short extension, and you have to put pressure on the back of that thing and slowly start to get it to go. You don't want to just get on there, pop it on there, and start yanking it. That ain't going to help you. You got to get that T50 on there and then slowly start to get it going. Because yeah, it's gonna be tough. Boosted, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Didn't have a question or a comment, but thank you very much for the support, buddy. I appreciate that a ton. Thank you, man. Let's see. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's see. Bear with me here. But yeah, I know what's up with those bolts. Sovereign's hanging out with Chuck. Chuck saying, I'd have kept the Scat. I really like that Scat Pack, the shaker. A funny fact about that, for you guys that don't know, so he was at one of my track events, and he went out and ran an 1157 in that shaker, and there was nothing done to it. It was a stock tune on a drag pack with the passenger seat removed. And that was it. So he ran an 1157 in that car, set up like that. And then I drove it, and I ran an identical 1157 with that car. That was pretty funny. Let's see. Oh, Sovereign's still hanging out with Chuck. Yep. And I'm kind of with Chuck, man. I'm kind of more interested in the Mopar stuff. I'd like to see what they're coming out with, after it's all said and done. How can they leverage the STLA large platform? And for you guys that aren't familiar, that the STLA large platform is part of the STLA hybrid platform family. So you have STLA large, small, medium, and then STLA truck. Basically, what we're talking about are the electric and rumored to be hybrid platforms that are going to be our Banshee, for example, that are the new Revolution, the new e-truck. Oh, Joseph, into his Scat for 37 grand. Lots of fun. They are. William saying, you don't want to create a Christine with Miss Revlon. No. Sovereign saying they didn't count the first 6 feet at launch. It's actually the first foot at launch. It's a 1 foot rollout. Oh, he's talking about the performance of the Demon. Yeah, I mean, it's all of those tests always have 1 foot rollout. You're quoting engineering explained, and it's what you've got a couple of numbers confused. It's a 1 foot rollout, and it's doing roughly 4 to 5 miles an hour, sometimes more, within that first foot of acceleration. So that's where the confusion comes into play. Let's see. Road Test TV saying, speaking of direct connection, what do you think of the stage kits for Hellcats? So I have a video coming up as soon as I can finish doing a little bit more of a deep dive into some of the stage kits. Here's where I'm at with the stage kits for the Hellcats. One of the issues that we have right now with the current operating system protocol for component protection. Now, that's a whole bunch of blah, blah, blah that just means catalytic converter over temp protection. One of the problems that we have is how do you mitigate, when you're putting a tune together, the hyper rich condition that comes when the inferred temperature, because remember, it's not sensed, it's inferred, temperature of the catalytic converters really starts to skyrocket. And what happens in the cars is that based on load, there's a few things that it's based on that we don't have access to in the tuning community. There's a lot there for everything that we have access to. There is little, in some cases, it could be tens or hundreds of other things that we don't have access to. So I don't have any way to change how the computer infers temperature, but I can tell the computer to not go crazy with fueling when the inferred temperature gets to a certain number. I guess it's a long way to try to explain to you something. So that for my fellow nerds out there, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So for everybody else that doesn't need all the extra technical stuff, these cars go super rich when you floor them. Okay. And that is to help keep the catalytic converters intact. That's why there was a recall, and part of the reprogramming was to have the cars go into catalytic converter overtemp protection way sooner. And it goes crazy rich. It's like 9-to-1 air fuel ratio. And that's coming up on like hydrolock almost levels of air fuel ratio, depending on quench area and all this other stuff. So yeah, it's super, super, super rich. And that creates a problem when you're trying to make power. I don't know. God, this is a long way to get to a point, isn't it? Jeez Louise, thanks for the journey, right? But I don't know what they look like. So if it is a protocol that allows for a significantly higher temperature for catalytic converters to run with the higher boost levels, which I would assume that it is because you're running it on race gas. Not that that has anything to do with catalytic converter temperatures, but if you're running the thing on race gas, you kind of know what you're up to, right? And if it has conventional catalytic converter overtemp protection in your 93 octane tune and then eliminates it or significantly alters it to where it doesn't go crazy pig rich when you're running the car, then in that case, it may make sense. But I don't know what the air fuel ratio is, or more to the point with Dodge's fuel air is how it reads. It's a Germany thing. That's kind of a vestigial organ from being a part of Mercedes, is how some of these processors work. But another thing that I will tell you this, so all of that, golly, that was painful for both of us. One of the things that bothers me the most, though, about the stage kits is that, and I'm not sure if they've changed anything, they don't come with injectors. And the reason why that's a bit of a problem for me is when you're around these cars enough, you start to learn very quickly that you can hit fuel injector duty cycles that are dangerously close or even over 100% in really low density altitude conditions. Perfect example of this, guys. When I ran the string of 1008s and the 1005 and the 1007, I had data logged 3 of those passes. And I haven't really talked about this too much. So now's a good opportunity to. My injector duty cycle was 102%. This is on a stock car, and all I'm doing is throwing fuel at it. So I am technically throwing more fuel at it, but I am at a point where, and there is some overhead. Okay. There is a little bit of overhead to play with, but I can't get, like, I actually start to shut the car down if it hits 110%. And so that's one of the issues that I'm running into. I am literally within like a handful of percentage points away from having to have larger injectors, and my car is stock, right? So, or not stock boost. So consider that when I say that I feel like if I've got a pulley in play here, it's going to have larger injectors. And none of those stage kits, at least that I'm aware of, or at least at the time when I was really digging deep and looking into them, none of them had provisions for larger injectors. But if the thought behind it is, well, it's a race gas tune, so I can get away with leaner fuel air mixtures because it's race gas, and still, in other words, you're commanding the same air fuel ratio as you would with 93, but you can get away with it because of a higher knock threshold with the race gas, and you're trying to creep power up a little bit with that. I understand the logic behind it, but it's still, from a prudence standpoint, doesn't really hold water for me in that respect. Oh, Sovereign saying he wants to see how the Dark Horse is going to stack up against the Scat from a dig. So I was, I think the Scat would pull ahead for a moment or two, and that would be about it. There's a lot that would go into that, and Chuck's agreeing with that too. Turntables in saying, finally got the RF hub lockdown done at the dealership for my 16 Scat. Very cool. I am right behind you on that. And also disabled the keyless entry through the EVEC, which I 100% suggest y'all do. I think I'm okay unless thieves get a tow truck. That's the thing. Look, if you get the RFID hub lockdown, that's going to eliminate a lot. If you get an OBD2 lock, that'll help too, just because if somebody is trying to get but you can't make another key if you get the lockdown. And that's how they're stealing the cars. Keep the keys in a Faraday pouch at the house. And by the way, guys, this goes for any manufacturer. If you have a car that has fobs, they can be cloned. It's not a Dodge thing. Fords are actually easier than Dodges are to steal. A lot of people don't realize that, but that's actually the case. I had a buddy of mine had his truck stolen out of a hotel parking lot. And the reason why they picked his truck is because the Fords happen to have a long range on their fobs. Go figure. But yeah, disable your keyless entry. You don't need, the get in and go feature. You don't need all that. But if you've got if you've got that disabled, your RFID locked out, and you put the Destroyer 1320 neutral lockout on the car, there's a lot of things you can do to make it extremely annoying to steal your car. If you do all that, then you'll be in good shape. It'll just be such a pain in the ass. So they'll find an easier target. But yeah, I am very close to doing that myself. And again, Boosted, thank you very much, buddy. Zephyr's asking, back to Octane or E, we could ensure you get whichever E ratio or Octane chooses 86 to 102 or E1 to 85. This could help add consistency and be less reliant on the vehicle sensor and timing tables. Well, here's the thing. The best way to do it is to have a sensor, though, because now you would have a protocol that will allow you to run anything that comes out of a pump that has an octane rating of 91 or higher for your car. So it's really just a function of prioritizing performance. And in this case, performance isn't just outright performance. It's the fitness of the vehicle to be able to manage any kind of fuel that comes out of a pump, including extremely high ethanol content fuels. Plus, it makes it bio-friendly. Sovereign. No problem, man. Listen, it's easy to get numbers mixed up, brother. That's why I'm here. I do numbers. J Master's got the cadence. I don't have my shades. Oh, he's got it right. Thank you, J Master. Appreciate it, man. Hoping all is well with you too, my friend. So I'm saying, welcome, everyone. Red Dog saying, I think Dodge does themselves wrong by not offering news about what they are planning for new models. Some people will migrate to other manufacturers thinking Dodge is disengaged. Maybe they are. Jim saying, what's up, brother? Saying 100%, 102%. Is that all? Yes. Because I drove an hour to the track and logged my run and saw 113%. Dude. So I packed it up and went home. That was due to the cat recall. And yes. And so that's where, and I had the car tuned to fix it immediately. So that's what he's talking about. So what Jim's talking about is he took his car to the drag strip when it went into the new version of cat over temp protection. That's what he was looking at, that 113%. And that's what I had seen in a tune that so I had a data log sent over to me on it, and it's a buddy of mine's. It's a friend of a friend's car that I'm going to be tuning soon. And he goes, man, I had this thing, had that recall done. And I said, dude, get a data log. So he data logged it, sent it over to me. And I just went, jaw bounced off my desk because looking at it, it went to 9.2 to 1 AFR, and I'm going, holy shit. So, yeah, that was nuts. That was absolutely crazy. Yeah, 113. His went to 104. His didn't go, but then again, it was warmer, I'm sure. Yeah, that is nuts. 113, mine shuts down. Mine will actually start pulling throttle at 110. And well, I'll put it like this: you'll see it in the data log from my pedal follower. It'll read injector duty cycle, and that's when you'll see it really just like we're shutting it down. By the way, is your track thawing out yet? Mine today was the last day for my track, and it wasn't an open track day, so I'm going to have to leave it up to you, my friend. You got to carry the mantle unless I can get just an awesome day next fall over at Evadale. Someone saying, hit that like button. But really just wanted to visit with you guys tonight. It's kind of sad right now. We've got all these tracks shutting down. We don't really see any relief of that in sight. Jim say my AFR was 9 to 1. The bypass would bleed boost down to 8 PSI and come back. Yep. That's like, it's crazy to me that I get it that it's a component protection thing, but damn, it is just like the last time I saw or was talking to anybody about air fuel ratios that were that rich on purpose, not on accident, but on purpose, was for Allison 1710s when, Allison 1710s when running war emergency power with 100 octane. I think they were trying to run that thing at 100 or at 9.5 to 1 with a lean mixture being at roughly 10 to 1. But then again, they have a ton of quench, so you can kind of get away with that. They're trying to cool that thing down a lot. But that's the only engine that I ever heard of. And there's others like the interwar engines would do the same, but not like these other ones. Before water meth injection, that's how they would cool the chambers. John's asking if I think Dodge has more horsepower compared to Camaro and Mustangs because they weigh more. They need more, that's for sure. Oh, damn. Jim saying his track's opening up on Saturday, but our DA sucks. It was 700 to 1,100 today. Oh, man. Really? Hope it gets better in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, no kidding, man. No doubt. God, it was so weird today. Today was like a summer day. I get into my truck and, Buffy's, Weather Central, it was driving down the road was 87. Going, damn, it is hot. I don't even know what the DA was. Let's see what the DA is right now. Let's see. Where's my other? I'll tell you what the DA is right now. Let me pull up. I don't know how much longer I'm going to have access to this either. I'll let you know what the track is showing. At Houston Raceway Park, density altitude is 1,200 feet, 71 degrees, good baro at 30.03, 72% humidity though, so grains are up. So yeah, 1220, but high grains. There's your H-Town weather forecast right there. Frederick Zinn saying, what's cooking, B? What's up, man? But yeah, so with all the tracks shutting down, it's a real drag. We're hoping that, we'll maybe hear something cool eventually about Houston getting another track. I just don't see it really happening anytime super soon. Make sure I'm not missing anybody here. Sometimes I'll scroll through these and I'll just end up missing you guys. So I want to make sure that I am not missing anybody on the live. But yeah, I had it's kind of funny because, putting the car back to all street trim, What? Okay, so y'all know I did that the rear resonator delete because I was so annoyed. And I don't. This is the thing. I literally will not see this on anybody else's car but mine. I just did not like seeing the resonators hanging down there. So I was like, now I'm going to get that resonator delete, which ended up being more of a headache than it's worth. And by the way, if you're thinking about doing it the way that I did it, don't. I mean, check out the video, obviously, because it's the never ending entertainment, right? But anyway, it's just, I don't, because there's, if you do it the wrong way, you can actually really hurt performance. If you don't cut the pipes in the right place and put everything together the right way, you can actually mess it up fairly decently. Don't do it that way. If you want to do it another way, just have them, I don't know, figure it out, cut it out, put a different tip on it or whatever. That's what Mean Cat did with his. I would, but I wouldn't do it the way I did. Anyway, the bottom line to this, all brambling and rambling stuff, is that when I put the speaker box in the car and put the little thing back over it, because now I don't have to worry about like carrying a cooler and chairs and all this other stuff back there. The car got quieter on the inside, even with the rear seat delete. The car got quieter, and so now it's kind of funny. It's just a bit more civilized. You know, it's got a little bit of a, as civilized as it can get. But anyway, that's kind of cool. And by the way, to and I don't want to end the live chat without saying this. So in the whole process of the track shutting down, I've been getting rid of some parts, and so in the process, I've gotten rid of a rear diff. It's the same rear diff that I went the very first ever 1008 with. That's the diff that I got rid of. But part of me wanted to keep that, by the way. I kind of put it in the sale just because I really didn't think it would sell, but it makes the inventory. Anyway, it was the first damn thing that sold was this 309 diff that I kind of had it. You don't ever get it like attached to parts, but I was like, damn, I could kind of use that. Not trying to get all hoarder or anything, but if things moved around or changed or a little bit different, I was kind of had my heart set on building the RT. And it would have had a 309 limited slip in it. So that's where that was coming from. But anyway, the funny thing is that thing sold first. So anyway, in the process of this, though, one of you guys bought the JLT that I took off the car. And so he had mentioned Orange Crush is the one managing the sale. We kind of had a bit of a garage sale. And my rims are in. I got an extra set of D5s that are in there. It's all just local sale type stuff. So anyway, but one of the guys goes, yeah, he mentioned me to Chris, and he goes, yeah, I mean, there's the car that, talking about me, Orange Crush, there's the car that I tuned. And so anyway, it was pretty cool. So hope you enjoy it. Had a lot of fun with that intake. It sounds amazing. I think you'll like it a lot. So Sovereign, B. Mason's video, 2016 Challenger SRT 3. Minor setback during cat delete install. Oh, that was the catalytic converter delete. No, that's not the video. That's the oh man, that was going back a long time. I think that is the one where I had to get. Oh, that's right. That car had a short wiring harness. So for you guys that don't know, that check out pipes. I think it might be listed in the how-to section, like pipes, resonator delete install or resonator delete install. But I'll tell you about that cat delete thing. So the catalytic converter delete pipe was, I think was it JBL? I can't remember who made them. Anyway, what's funny about the cat delete pipe is that I had to get O2 extensions for it, and because my car had a short wiring harness, and so that was a bit of a headache. I had a car, I think I had it up on ramps and everything. It was all good, had everything removed. It was putting everything back into the car, and then found out that, oh crap, I need to get these wiring harness extensions. So that's what that video is chronicling. And that's from a while back. But yeah, that was actually pretty funny. But guys, we are coming up on an hour. I'm going to make this a short show tonight. I've got a lot of work to do tomorrow. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me. If you could, Catalyst, thank you very much. Good question. Hang on a second. I'll make sure I answer his question. If you try to install your own spark plugs, do they come pre-gapped? Sort of. I'll get to that. Also, do you have to disconnect the negative terminal first? Not really. You don't have to if you're doing plugs, but it's a good procedure as best practices to pull your negative terminal. When I do pull my negative terminal, I don't have any of the caps here, but I'll always wrap the negative terminal with a rag. But in terms of, do they come pre-gapped? Always check your spark plug gap. Now, with a naturally aspirated car, it rarely makes a difference. You're not going to see a difference on the dyno with a set of spark plugs gapping them at, say, 30 versus 45 or 50. You're trying to make that kernel really big with a wide gap. For most of these cars, most of the modern cars, you're not really going to see a huge difference there. So gap them to, say, 45 or 47 for a naturally aspirated car. For boosted, though, you always have to check gaps, and you always have to set gaps accordingly. If you're at stock boost, stick with the stock gaps. If you're boosted over and above, or you're starting out with a naturally aspirated car and you want to make sure that you're not blowing out the spark, a gap of around 26 thousandths is where you want to start off at. I wouldn't go any tighter than 23, but less than 30. And so it's a good medium. Also, since we're talking about spark plugs, don't get wrapped up in E3 or this like boutique spark plug or that boutique. Stick with the NGK stuff or stick with the stock over-the-counter plugs. Believe me when I tell you, they are the best part that you can buy for the car that is not going to give you any headaches, and it's going to perform like it's supposed to. I have had, and this was a freaking nightmare. Okay, so, and I don't like talking about brands when they fail because they stay in business because they make a good product. But we had a Bravo package car, basically like Excessive, was on the dyno. Is a little bit more aggressive though, not by much. And in the process, the guy had Brisk plugs, and he go with Brisk. That car ate Brisk plugs. It was the weirdest thing. And so I went to Brisk. They have a distributor in Houston, and it did the same thing. Like, I don't know if it was a bad batch or what. Put the NGKs in it, boom, problem solved. So I would never dream of trying to put like the E3 stuff. None of it. Nothing. We tried it. Okay, well, damn, if it helps, it helps. You know, I mean, I'm not, who am I to judge? I mean, if it helps, you know, it's only crazy if it doesn't work, right? It not only did it not work, but it was just an exercise. Like it just didn't, it was just, I'll put it to like this. The car ate the Brisk plugs, which is still weird to me, but none of the rest of the stuff, it just didn't make any sense to even try it. After one test, we're done, not doing it again, and then moved on from that. And Chuck's saying 16 NGK iridiums in my 392 for sure. DM saying NGK all the way, absolutely. But thank you, Catalyst. I appreciate that, man. Hopefully that answers your question. Just check the gap. That's the most important thing. And also, look, because you never know. You could be, you're taking the plugs out of the box, whatever. Most of the plugs have that little cardboard whoopsie guard on it, where we call them whoopsies because if you drop it, when it's in the box, that cardboard that's on the threads should, if the plug hits the ground, like it just goes think like that, it won't jack with the electrode or the strap at the bottom. Just still check them. You never know what happens in shipping, and again, it's just best practices to go through, check them. A lot of guys will take a Sharpie and they'll just mark the ones, check, mark, check, mark, and go through the list like that. It's just part of engine building. Sharpies are your friend. I mean, look at this, man. It's like I'm collecting these things. I got more Sharpies than I know what to do with. It's like anyway, see what I mean? Everything gets Sharpied or marked or signed or whatever that I do. That's just all my own stuff. So anyway, and guys, with that, I am going to wrap it up. Guys, I love each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate all the love and support. Would not do this without you. Guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. But with that, guys, again, thanks a ton, and we will catch y'all on the next one. That's a wrap. Adios.